what an interesting days of play. New Zealand probably a little ahead.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Straight Bat with Gulf News and Mr. Cricket UAE, that is Ani Sajan. With me is Ani Sajan and along with and Gautam Bhattacharya, we discussed day 5 of the ultimate test, that is the World Test Championship between India and New Zealand. Finally, we had a near full day of match. Okay, well, one hour's game was lost, but still we managed to get 80 overs through today. And still, we don't know whether there could be a result possible. I will go to Anis and just see what he thinks about it.
Good evening, Sham. Good evening, Gautam. Good evening to all the beautiful people of Gulf News. We are at 10 p.m., past 10 p.m., and probably in UK 7 p.m. that the match finally we got some sunlight. I would say lots of sunlight to play 80 overs. And what an interesting days of play. New Zealand probably a little ahead by taking that crucial lead of 32 runs, and India at the end of the day 64 for 2. So they are 32 for 2 to be precise. They are chasing the game, to be very honest, because if there is a collapse, New Zealand can probably chase down the game, but we'll have to wait and watch how Virat Kohli and Cheteshwar Pujara tackle the first session tomorrow.
Gautam, do you see a draw coming up?
Yes, to be very honest, Sham, I don't see a result at this point, but we keep doing these predictions, and then finally, cricket makes a mockery of it. I mean, if you look at the way things have gone today, first and second session, Mohammad Shami is bowling. Then what Team Saudi did in the last session, the way he set up Rohit Sharma and got a LBW out of him is amazing. But given the time that is left with us, it is really, really difficult to see something very dramatic happening as to India collapsing to something like 150, 160 odd runs. And that gives New Zealand a very decent chance of winning. I mean, should that happen?
Yesterday, we said that the chances of a win is very, very slim, or rather negligible, I'd say. The only team who could win was New Zealand, but that is provided they run up a good first inning score, but that didn't happen. That is due to some excellent bowling from India and also very accurate bowling, and Shami was the pick of it. What do you think of Shami's performance, Anis?
Yes, you know what, Sham, India would have been in big trouble had Shami and Ishant Sharma not got India the wickets, because at one stage when New Zealand started, they were probably just 2 down with 117 just in areas. But credit to the Indian bowlers, the ball was swinging quite a lot as it happened on the first day. So they bowled with a lot of control. They bowled the right length and got rewarded. In the first half, only before lunch, we managed to pick up, I believe, 3 to 4 wickets. And then in the second half, we kept on chipping in. But finally, thanks to Jamieson and Saudi, that they managed that extra 32 runs. Otherwise, India would have been on par with them. But nonetheless, you have to give credit to our Indian bowlers who made sure that New Zealand never ran away with the game.
It's very accurate bowling from Indians, especially Ishant and Shami. But Jasprit Bumrah was not at his best, but still he was accurate enough to keep the runs down. What about the spinners? We didn't see much of the spin bowling, Gautam, because although I know Ashwin got 2 wickets, but still he bowled a little over 40, maybe around 14 overs. I think Jadeja got around 7 overs. So they were of not much use so far. So was it a mistake to carry them?
Yes, Sham, it was very clear that the spinners were not part of the plan initially. I mean, they were brought on when, possibly they needed to stop the tail from wagging, and Ashwin is very good in doing that. That is why. Same with Jadeja. They were not exactly part of the plan. And that's where the question of a fourth simmer again came up. But anyway, what I would like to say was, the effort from both the sides, or the seriousness from both the sides with which they treated it. I mean, nobody is actually willing to give a quarter in this battle. So that's what made this 5th day's play so remarkable. Yesterday, when after the washout, when we were talking, we could hardly have bargained for a complete day of this kind of drama, gripping drama.
Yes, it is very absorbing days of play. And even if you look at the last few overs, the particular over you mentioned about Team Saudi, the way he set up Rohit Sharma, brilliant test cricket at its finest, actually. Coming back to Anis, where do you see the match going from here?
Before that, Sham, you asked Gautam about that India probably felt that they had an extra spinner instead of going with one spinner. Yes, I remember our conversation we had on the first night. We should have probably gone with four seamers, but nobody expected that you would have 2 days of rain and the wicket will not have that wear and tear. Had that wear and tear would have been there, and we would have that 1 day's extra play more, even if not the 2 days. There would have been a difference in this test match, but nonetheless, what has gone is history. Now, what you say that about the match, yes, India definitely need to guard themselves and ensure that they go to the safety passage toward lunch. So if they have batted towards lunch, that means they must have batted around 26 to 30 overs. And in 30 overs, even India has managed 60 runs. So India will be almost 100 runs ahead. And if maybe a loss of 1 wicket, maximum 2, India can then stretch their lead as much as possible with the next 6 wickets. But New Zealand definitely are the only team which has a realistic chance. I don't think anything else except a draw, which is 70%, and 30% probably New Zealand.
Why I brought up the spinners issue was at one point, that is closer when the new ball was nearly due, when they had to get to the 80 over mark. It was Jadeja and Bumrah bowling, simply because Jadeja was brought in not because of there was any purchase on the wicket, because they had to get the overs through to reach 80 overs, and they wanted to keep Shami and Ishant Sharma afresh. So if we had a fourth seamer, perhaps instead of Jadeja, he would have still kept the pressure on, because that was a time when Colin Granholm was at the crease and he had an easy time. He could play himself in. Maybe if he had a fourth seamer, we could have use that to put pressure at that point. Maybe we could have got out a couple of wickets at the point. Maybe New Zealand may not. I mean, this is again in hindsight. Maybe New Zealand may not have got a lead. Which is why I brought up the thing. But like you said, what is done is what is gone through, or we can only speculate on these matters. Now, having said this, you said that only New Zealand can win, and India has to save the match. My problem with that is the first. If you look at the first innings, India were 143 for 3, and then we went on to 217. So India has this propensity of having a sudden collapse at some point. So that brittleness still remains at some point. So, Gautam, do you see something like that happening in the second innings too?
Yes, I can't write that off. I mean, here I see a difference between the way the New Zealanders have prepared for this test match and the way Indians have approached it. Indians, the thing is that, for example, the one way to prevent it is, once again, Rishabh Pant has to realize that he's starting afresh. I mean, he has to forget what he has done in Australia, what he has done against England. I mean, there cannot be that luxury of playing away from the body, and that kind of a cavalier stroke play. So they have to be very, very careful. I mean, see the difference between them and the New Zealand tail today. Between Grandholm and Williamson, they added something like 27 valuable runs. After that came Saudi. Yeah, Saudi was quite capable of those big strikes. They added some 30 or 32 runs. So they made each of those lower order partnerships count. So
yeah, in between Kyle Jamieson also added some 27 runs.
Jamieson was very good. He scored 25 odd runs. So there were 3 partnerships like that. So, at a point of time, after guarding the citadel till lunchtime, because we don't know when the conditions are going to get tricky for batting. Like today itself, the second session, it was far easier for batting. But when Virat Kohli and Co came down against the new ball, it was a completely different proposition. I mean, that Saudi over was simply torrid.
Yes, so he got hit in the head as well.
Really careful in the first 2 hours tomorrow. Otherwise, there could be a twist in the tail. I mean, we are saying draw, but there could still be a twist in the tail.
Yeah, before we forget about one stellar knock here, what the quiet man of New Zealand and perhaps the linchpin of New Zealand always, he seemed to do always well against India, and I guess you know whom we are talking about. Kane Williamson, he held the New Zealand innings together. He was the responsible for where New Zealand is today. And is your thoughts on Williamson's innings?
Absolutely fabulous. They were showing about his percentage of correct shots. It was 84%. That showed the quality of man what Williamson possesses. On this wicket, where the ball was moving around, jagging around left, right, and center, he showed the perfect technique to handle it. And mind you, had he not held that one end, New Zealand probably would have collapsed to less than 200 or maybe 170. And one of the reasons today they got that 32 runs lead. Okay, the tail wagged, but he held that innings till the end. We made sure that New Zealand fought in that tough conditions when Indian bowlers were really making the ball to top.
Coming to you, Gautam, is again, I know you talked about Shami earlier, but to me, the ball of the day was bowled by Shami when he dismissed PJ Watling. The ball pitching on the middle and hitting the off. That is Shami at his best. Your impressions, Gautam?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, see, the thing is, his strength is getting the ball to move off the seam. But what he got right today was the perfect length, which forced, which lured a batsman like Ross Taylor to go for that expansive drive. And here also, he drew him to the shot, and then finally, Watling was dismissed. So yes, it was really, and I think the spell, the length of the spell, that also proved that because see, he is the oldest among these. No, I think Ishant is there.
Yeah.
Ishant should be the oldest in terms of age.
Yeah.
But the venom with which he bowled, I mean, this is Shami. Fair to say that he kind of rolled back the years.
Also, I mean, we said that spinners were very ineffective, but Ashwin got a little bit of purchase at the end, which gave us some kind of hope in the sense that if there is match goes into the last session, maybe very and like Ani said earlier, if we had a full 5 days of game, maybe the spinners could have come into the play, and maybe Ashwin would have been a handful. Now again, the ifs and buts. No time for ifs and buts. We have just 3 sessions of play left. Danny said there is maximum 98 overs possible. So, I mean, we have discussed where all the possibilities for where the match is headed to. Anything? Did we anything more to add on this?
We are good, Sham. I guess we've covered almost everything, and we hope that we have a nice tight day to finish off this World Test Championship, which will be, we have some happy memories for both the teams.
Gautam, anything to add from today's play or our thoughts on tomorrow?
See, about tomorrow, I think we have spoken we have dealt with the kind of possibilities. All that I can say is today's play kind of had been a redeeming feature, of this in the number of days that we have had so far. Test cricket at its best, test of character at its best. I don't remember seeing Virat Kohli getting hit on the helmet, in the last 4 to 5 years like this. But
yeah, they say it is the third time in his career.
This is the phase of the wicket which basically did it. I mean, because he doesn't take his eyes away, but finally that split-second decision that landed him in a bit of an awkward situation. But then he is not Virat Kohli for nothing. So, and this partnership is very crucial. And another thing, Cheteshwar Pujara, that he needs to do is, he should start playing his shots, because there is no point in trying to hang around in this wicket. It just takes one ball that nanosecond of a thing to go wrong, and then he is gone, scoring another 15 runs of 60, 65 balls. Tomorrow is a different day. Tomorrow the approach should be different.
Let's hope we get a full day's play tomorrow, because if they're going by today's yardstick, and that could be an absorbing day's play, and hope it lives up to the promise of a final day's test. I'll leave you with that thought for tomorrow. Thank you very much for joining us. Good night, everybody. Please log on to our golfnews.com as well as our social media channels, Facebook and Instagram. Thank you very much. Good night.